Welcome to BookWorthy. Today we're talking with author Phyllis Wheeler, who has written newspapers, worked on airplanes as a mechanical engineer, worked as a publisher and editor, and raised 4 children doing some homeschooling along the way. Now she's writing award-winning time travel fantasy tales for kids and teens. Book 1 of her Guardians of Time series follows Jake and Ava as a mysterious teen that takes their dog, and they must time travel to get their beloved dog back. I can't wait to introduce you to Phyllis and the fun adventures of the Guardians of Time. Welcome to BookWorthy, Phyllis.
Hello, everybody. I'm so glad to be here.
We are so glad to have you. I'm so excited about chatting with you and about these fun little adventures through time that you've put together. But before we get started, we have to do our random question of the week. And since your book deals with time travel, I thought we'd ask, what time period would you travel to if you had that power?
Oh, I really would like to meet Jesus. I would like to, like that Sermon on the Mount. I'd like to be there. And I'd like to go, in the Sea of Galilee and watch him walk on the water. Yeah, I would love all that.
That's a very good answer. I had never really thought of that, because usually when you think of time periods, you think of like the Romans or the Greeks or medieval times. It's like, oh, that's yes, Jesus, please. And I think through The Chosen and some of the Christian films that have come out, we've kind of seen new sides to Jesus, which has kind of been fun and entertaining, just to kind of get an idea of what it would have been like to be back then. Very neat. Well, Phyllis, why don't you tell us a little bit about your 3-book series, The Guardians of Time?
So the first book is The Dog Snatcher. Then the second book is Secret of the Lost Dragons. And this one is Search for the Hidden Throne. Now, this is a series that's kind of ongoing. It can just keep going forever if you want to. So I'm writing a 4th book. And so it is a story of Jake and Ava. So they live here in St. Louis, near me, actually, in the suburbs. And they're out playing in their yard. They're 11 years old, by the way. Out playing in their yard with their dog. And this guy comes along. He's a teenager, and he grabs the dog, and he runs down the street, and he vanishes into thin air. Well, they don't know what to do, but they notice he has dropped a skeleton key. So they pick it up, and they messing around, they turn it in the air, and all of a sudden, they're somewhere else. It's a time travel key. And they have entered the world of the Guardians of Time, who are medieval alchemists who've been granted long life so as to rescue people lost in time. So they spend the rest of the book chasing through time and space to get the dog back.
It's a very good book. It's very engaging and fast-paced. And I love how you go to the non-typical places in time. Usually when you read a time travel book, you kind of get a little bit of the big hitters of
the American Revolution or
history, right? American Revolution, Egypt, the Roman Colosseum. You usually get those big things, but you take them to Lyon, France, and Vienna, and just kind of these hidden gems of history that I really enjoyed. What made you want to kind of explore those little parts of history?
I've actually been there. So I've been to Lyon and I've been to Vienna, and I like those places. And when you're there, of course, they're very old cities. You can imagine what they were like 500 years ago or 1,000 years ago or whatever. So in Lyon especially, it's a Roman settlement. It's very, very old. So it has catacombs. So I had to work that in, of course.
Of course.
So I live here in St. Louis, and it's in the story too. St. Louis has caves under the city, just like Lyon. So we have a cave thing going on.
I love that, explores the different, like I said, hidden gems of history, and that there is even history in our own towns that we don't even know about. And I love that Jake and Ava really have that sense of adventure and curiosity to turn that key, to step through the door, to not just go looking for their dog, but to kind of ask the questions that, young kids would ask if they were out and about in traveling through time.
Hey,
what was your inspiration for writing for this middle grade, kind of 8 to 11 age range?
Well, I've always wanted to write for kids, ever since I was like 13. And I'm not sure why I'm drawn to it, but I guess it's sort of a calling. But in the meantime, I was a journalist. I worked for a daily newspaper, or a couple of them, for a total of 6 years. And journalism training is, you write short sentences, active verbs, 6th grade reading level. So it was very good training for this. So that's the way I naturally write now.
Yeah, it's one of the hardest things as a writer is to write succinct and strong, because we want to, or what is it? In school, we're often taught to elaborate and to use adjectives and adverbs, but we kind of lose the heart or the point of whatever we're communicating. So when journalism kind of trains you to write fast and sharp and quick and to get your points across, it really strengthens a story, which we're not taught in school.
Right.
Unfortunately.
And if you can write a description that is like one sentence long and really gets the person there, now that takes work. It takes a lot more work than writing a whole paragraph, because you got to cut it down. Leave things
Very
out.
true.
Leave everything out that isn't absolutely necessary.
You said that you have traveled to Vienna and Lyon. What other places have you traveled that show up in the Guardians of Time?
For my next book, this Secret of the Lost Dragons is set in, well, it's a bit of a spoiler, but it's somewhere in the Middle East that I actually have not been. But there's enough people that have been there that I was able to watch a million videos on YouTube. And I also posted on Facebook and asked all my friends, like, who's been there? They could send me your photos. And one of those people sent me some very critical photos for my visualizing the water system. It has an unusual water system, so which is in the book, of course.
Very cool.
So, and the same with this one here. I haven't actually been to this place either, which you could kind of guess. You see the llamas.
A little bit. So I love that your books aren't Europe-centric, because there are a lot of time travel books that kind of stay in that, Christendom area, the places that, Christianity stayed into, where most history follows. And it's been a neat process for me to explore a little bit more beyond that into the Middle East and to South America and discovering those histories as well. And I think those are areas that kids don't get a lot of in school curriculum or even homeschool curriculum. So what made you want to explore those histories of those different countries?
I've got two things in mind when I'm trying to figure it out. I've got my kids had this computer game called Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? And really cute little song.
Where
and I guess
in
they
the world
made it.
Carmen Sandiego?
So that's kind of what I have in mind here. Like let's guess where these kids are and not tell you immediately. So most of the series is going to be like that. They land somewhere, they don't know where, and they got all these clues and they have to figure it out. So that's part of it. And then places I've been, I'm looking for. So the Guardians of Time, which they become apprentices of, are rescuing people lost in time. And who needs rescuing in this history, So I look around for somebody who needs rescuing.
That's really neat. I love Carmen Sandiego, that video game I played as a kid, and it's something that I really opened up my world and my love for different cultures and traveling. And I love that kind of is one of the foundations of what you are building with these Guardians of Time, because it is neat for kids to look outside of their own home in their own neighborhood and to see the world in new ways. And I think that's the beauty of history and studying history from all over the world, is just to get a greater glimpse of the world both God created, the people God created, how creative He made us, and just how amazing the human race really is.
Yeah, it's really good to just get more in depth, a more in depth feeling about the world around you and the history of the world.
Most definitely. Now, Phyllis, did you always want to be an author?
But my
usually
first
hits us
book,
pretty young, doesn't it?
yeah, I wrote my first book when I was 7. So I just learned to read, and it was a book about a pony who wanted a saddle, and I illustrated it myself and stapled it together.
I think that's one of the earliest memories I have, is in my 2nd grade class. They were told to make a book, and I just consumed myself with it. It was just what I loved doing and what I would do at home. And it was a 7th grader, not a 7th grader, but a 7-year-old drawing, which wasn't all that great, but it was so immersive to, I guess, how God created me, which was kind of neat to see it.
He gave me the desire and the gift, so it seems pretty obvious that I should do it.
Very neat. Now, you have some study guides that go along with these books as well on your website, correct?
I've got a study guide for the first book of the Guardians of Time series for here, and that's I think it's 5 weeks a unit study, and I've also got a study guide for my other book that is not part of the Guardians of Time. My first book, it has a study guide too, so they're available on my website. And so I also have pulled together a group of authors writing in the same space. Namely, they're Christian authors writing for middle grade or lower middle grade homeschool market, and ask them to write guides. And so our study guides are available for free download on our joint website.
Very neat. Go ahead.
newclassicsstudyguides.com.
That sounds like an amazing resource.
It is.
What are some of the other authors that you have on there?
Let's see. John Hendricks wrote a book about the biography of Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Alan Brocken writes kind of a family read aloud, sort of fantasy. Susan Marlowe writes westerns, girl series and a boy series. I think currently the one we have on our website is the girl series. And kind of a smattering of just different things. Oh, yeah, Candy Wyatt writes dragon books. So the one that's on our website is about some teenage boys who found a dragon egg on the beach in California, and what they do with it when it hatches and stuff like that.
Sounds like a little bit for everybody.
Right. Yeah, it's just kind of a potpourri. Yeah. And we're getting new authors regularly also. Then the way we get them is I choose them. So they have to be good books. They have to be written by Christians.
Have to pass the test, right?
Yes, I have to read them. So I'm a homeschooling mom, so I have a very good idea of what homeschooling moms are looking for. Nothing political, for example.
I'd imagine so. It definitely is a different mindset. I have some friends that homeschool, and I'm amazed at the books that they have their kids reading, and just the depth that they go to explore the topics that these books bring out. So I love that you've provided resources, not just for your books, but a resource for other homeschooling families to find good Christian books to do the same. So that's really neat. Now, if you could communicate one thing through this series to kiddos, what do you hope they walk away with?
Walk away with, when you're in a tight spot, you should pray for help. That's what my kids do. So my books are not really obviously Christian. I'm trying to be winsome to a non-Christian. So I never use the word Jesus, but these So I gave God a different name. He's the guiding hand in this series. And the kids, and he actually, set up the Guardians of Time Guild and calls them and puts them in situations. And so it's very natural for them to, say, oh, this is a high spot. I don't know what to do. Help, Lord. Or help, guiding hand. So
I love how you've woven in the idea of a higher power and the idea of that there is someone in control. There is someone who watches and is mindful of how we're spending our time, where we're spending our time, and the things that are important to us. And it's subtle, but it's really sweet, the way that you've woven that into your stories, for sure.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm trying. It's hard to straddle two worlds, but I'm trying.
It's one of those things that comes naturally to talk about Jesus and, the Bible, right, and, God's all powerful, all sovereign, but it's not common language for those that may not be in a space where they have a faith in their family or know about, God and the Bible as well. And so I love how you're just kind of introducing ideas that kind of make kids question, have them ask questions, not just about history, but what they believe in. And those are important questions for kids in that 8 to 11 range to really start asking.
Book, the first one, The Dog Snatcher, our young hero, Jake, tells a lie to his dad at the beginning and takes him the whole book to apologize, but he does. So it's, trying to work in the Christian living kinds of things also.
Yes, it's one of those, what those 11-year-olds are kind of, when you reach that age, you're kind of just starting to see the consequences for your actions and, secrets and, being honest are such big parts of that preteen age of deciding, okay, who am I going to be? What kind of person am I going to be? Am I going to be the person that speaks truth to my family? Am I going to be the one that cares for my sister? Just those things that our young kids are trying to develop in their own selves, and they get to walk with Jake and Ava as they're kind of going through those same struggles too.
Right.
Very neat. Now, since you're a homeschool mom for a while, and you are so in depth with all the books, what's been one of your favorite books that you went through with your kids or that you've really enjoyed?
My favorite book of all time is The Lord of the Ring. Because I first picked it up when I was about 14, and I read it through. And then, I was kind of a sickly kid. I'd get sick pretty often, and every time I got sick, I would read The Lord of the Rings. It took me, about 3 days to read it nonstop, And so that's about how long I'd be sick. It's about 3 days. So anyway, so I probably read it 100 times. And right now I'm listening to the audiobook, and I'm so enjoying it again. It's just sort of like my happy place. It seems kind of odd, but because it's a book about war and stuff, but it's also got so many other things going on.
It is such a rich book that you could read and connect with a different character each time and go on a different journey each time, no matter, even though it's saying the same words. And I think that's the beauty and the power of The Lord of the Rings for certain. Okay. Now, what is something we could expect next from you, Phyllis?
Well, I'm working on book 4, which doesn't have a name yet. It is set in pre-Christian Ireland, at least partly. I'm going for a launch date of July 1st, 2025.
Very neat. Not St. Patrick's Day?
No. It's too soon. I won't be ready.
Okay. No, but I love that time frame. I'm Irish, and so we do a lot of St. Patrick's Day celebrations in our home, and kind of focusing more on the missionary efforts of St. Patrick in those early Christian times of Ireland and pre-Christian times of Ireland. And so I look forward to seeing what you come up with in that 4th book for sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, where can people find out more about you and your book, Phyllis?
You have to go to my website, which is phylliswheeler.com. And here's how you spell it. You spell it any old way and you put it into Google. Phyllis Wheeler. And then there it is, my website.
Yep, we'll make sure to have it in the description that goes along with this episode just so that people can find it very easily. But you were definitely the first one to pop up when it comes to Phyllis Wheeler. So it's kind of neat to have a unique name for people to find you easily. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Phyllis.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, Valerie.
Cool. And thank you for joining Phyllis and me on this episode of the BookWorthy podcast. Check the show notes for any books or links that we discussed. And in the comments, what time period would you travel to if you had that power? Be sure to like and subscribe so we can discover more great books together. Happy reading!